All right, so this is practice test 5. You jump to the first few questions of section 3, just to walk you through some of the things about the structure of this test. First of all, you get a cheat sheet on the SAT. Most of this stuff is not actually useful because they don't ask you really many geometry questions, but occasionally this special right triangle, the 30, 60, 90 right triangle, can come in handy. You know, remember a circle has 360 degrees, which is also 2 pi radians. A triangle has 180, in case any of that ever slips your mind. If you're one who confuses area and circumference of a circle, right there it is, and it'll always be there. What I'm really interested in you doing, though, is thinking through and walking through and you know, updating or transforming the way that your eyeballs move around the page on one of these math questions. So when I say question answers clues, what I really mean by that is, you know, on a question like number 2 right here, I would not start by looking here. I would not start by reading here. I'm diving my eyes to the bottom of the question, finding a question word. What is the length of minor arc AC? That's step 1. Step 2, in my opinion, is look at and consider the answer choices. That is to say, I would immediately notice on this one that 18 is half of 36, 9 is half of 18, 12 is a third of 36. Like, all these answer choices are related. But if you're going into a question thinking instead of trying to remember, so step 3 is use the clues. So you look at everything that they've given you. The circle above the center O has a circumference of 36. Well, that's a word you need to know. Obviously, most of you do. Hopefully all of you do. It means the perimeter of the circle. The distance around is the circumference. If you didn't know that, or that's the thing that, you know, trips you out, you need to write that on your Y of the incorrect list. But if the circumference is 36, and then it's like, what's the question? What's the question? What's the question? The question is the anchor for your thinking. Most people look at a question like this and they think their job is to remember something about circumference from math class. Well, that doesn't get it done for me. I want you to think. Answers don't come from your memory, they come from thinking. You're not going to remember your way to answers, you're going to think your way to answers based on the clues that are in front of you. You got the question, you got the answers, you got the clues, and you got to remember they got to fit together in this 3-piece puzzle. So, what's the length of minor arc AC? Well, if the circumference is 36, AC can't be 36, so it's not D. Well, is that half of that? No, that means it's not 18. Well, is that a third of that? No, it looks more like a fourth of it. Okay, bingo, boom. That's how I want you thinking as you go through this. You gotta consider all the pieces of the puzzle and then watch them fall together and fit together, usually using elimination as you go. Remember, most answer choices are incorrect, and we're erring on the side of elimination. Not willy-nilly eliminating stuff. We're doing it based on logic and reason. On a question like number 3, most people see this. They believe it to be true that their job is to factor this. Well, of course, real math will work. You can factor that if you just want to. Factor out a 4 and then do the old, unfoil it, basically. Instead, what I'd prefer that you do, there's your question, there's your answers. Look at these answer choices and see how they relate to each other. Can you tell you've got 2 1s and 2 negative 1s, 2 3s and 2 negative 3s? Well, what's the easiest thing to test to work backwards? So I'm gonna take the 1 and I'm gonna plug it in for x's up here. Plug it into this x and plug it into that x. And see if that equation is true. If it is, 1 is a solution. If it's not, when you put a 1 in for x, you get 4 times 1 minus 8. 4 minus 8 minus 12. Does that equal 0? No, it doesn't. What does that mean? That means 1 is not a solution, so it can't be D or C. Do I need to test negative 1? Actually, I don't, because logically it has to be part of the answer, because these are the only 2 choices. Well, what's easier to test, 3 or negative 3? 3 is easier for my brain, so I'm going to plug it in for x now. 3 squared is 9. 4 9s is 36. Minus 8 times 3 is 24. Minus 12, is that equal to 0? Yes, it is. What's that mean? It means that B is bingo. That's how this whole test goes, y'all. You go question, answers, clues. Which of the following is an equation of line L? I mean, the first thing I would notice That's a y equals mx plus b, straight from our strategies sheet. And if you understand that this is the y-intercept, that's the value of y when x is 0. Boom, there it is. That we're connecting the equation to the ordered pairs to the graph. Slope of 1 right here, y equals mx plus b. b is 1, slope is 1, that means you're going up 1 over 1. That's bingo for this one. This is a horizontal line. Nope, this is a vertical line. This is a horizontal line. This goes through the origin, so none of those can be the answer. Again, if any of this stuff is stuff that you didn't know or can't remember, or if you're like, wait, I don't like plugging stuff in, I'd prefer to factor, cool, factor it. It's going to factor like this. You're going to take out a 4. It's going to be x, and 6 and 2. Nope. 3 and 1, because that's going to turn into a 3, 1, plus 1 minus 3. I mean, that's where these very solutions came from. Number 4, which the following is an example of a function whose graph in the xy plane has no x-intercepts. Well, here's another sort of vocab deal. If you don't know what an x-intercept is, it's where y is 0. It's the x value when y is 0. A linear function whose rate of change, that's a slope word. All this is on your strategies page. Slope, if you see the word rate, they're talking about a slope. Linear means line. Rate of change is not 0. That means it's a normal line. It can't have no x-intercepts. If it's a line, it's got to cross the x-axis somewhere. A quadratic is a parabola. That can't be the answer. Because it says with real zeros. So the word 0 and the word x-intercept actually mean the same thing. If you didn't know that, write that sucker down. A 0 is where a function crosses the x-axis. It's where y is 0. A quadratic function with no real zeros, that's bingo. No x-intercepts means no zeros. That would be a parabola that doesn't cross the x-axis, something like that. I'm keeping it moving. I know I'm doing this fast, but you can pause it if you need to. And step 1, what's the question? What's the value of k? Step 2, consider the answer choices. I would immediately notice this is significantly bigger than the others. And this is another work backwards question, meaning they did it all for you. If you put a 1 in for k, the square root of 3 minus 9, because they told us x is 9, is the square root of 3 minus 9 equal to 0? No. How about the square root of 9 minus 9? Square root of 9 is 3. 3 minus 9 can't be 0. How about the square root of 18 minus 9? They might trick you into thinking that if you're thinking that the square root means divided by 2, but that's not it either. Square root of 81 is 9, minus 9 is 0. So much of this test is just like that, y'all, just plugging stuff in. Right here, this is what I'm going to call a pick numbers question. The clue word for you is that word equivalent right there. This is a very good example for you. If you know how to find the sum of these two things, you just add them together and pick the answer. If you see the word equivalent, though, and you got a variable in the question that's also in the answer choices, a way to do these questions is pick a number for the variable. I'm just picking 2. If I pick 2, put it into the a here. 2 squared minus 1. This is a sum, so I'm adding 2 plus 1. Well, that's 4. 6. 6 is the answer. Now I take this same 2 and I put it into all these a's over here. And I'm going to try to see which one gives me a 6. 2 squared is 4 plus 2 makes 6. That's bingo. And it's like, but how did you know the other ones weren't 6? They can't be, because there's only one answer choice that's correct. You put a 2 in here, you get 8 minus 1 is 7. No deal. 2 squared, 4 times 2 is 8. 2 cubed is 8. That's how that kind of question goes. I want you to understand that section 3 is guaranteed to have a question, something like that. And it's going to look it might be as simple as that one, but in a different test, I'll show you a harder one that looks a lot like that. Questions like this, my suggestion is do not start reading here. You know that they're asking you for an inequality that connects these things. Look down here instead and see how these answer choices relate. I would immediately notice that those are the same and that those are the same and that the sign is switched on both of them. And to see how all those have a 20 in them, now I'm bouncing up here to find the 20. There it is. And I'm looking at the words next to it. No more than 20. No more than 20 means less than 20. So that's not a less than 20, that's greater than 20, so I'm getting rid of it. That's greater than 20. Well, now the only difference between B and C is this sign right here. So I'm looking up at the 220. 220 says at least 220. Well, that means 220 or more. Greater than 220. Boom. Now, I did that without even reading. I don't care about Jackie or her summer jobs or anything else. I care about picking C on question number 7 on test number 5. Why? Because that's 10 more points, baby. That's why we're here, to scoop up points. We're not here to learn. We're not here to care. You don't get any points for learning or caring. You gotta acknowledging your emotions as you go is totally fine and acceptable and good, in my opinion. Living in your emotions of fear and doubt and whatever is not getting it done. You've got to change your mind to change the way that you take a test. Next couple really quick. Here's the equivalent one I was trying to show you a second ago. I'll do that one in just a second. Immediately, first step 1, what's the question? Which of the following statements is the best interpretation of the 331.4? I'm looking here. Speed of sound at 0, speed of sound 0.6. Increase, that's a slope word. Increase, that's a slope word. When I look up here, I see that as a y equals mx plus b equation. What's the question? What's the question? What's the question? The question is, what's the 331.4? Well, there it is. In this formula, b is the y value when x is 0. So 331.4 must be the value of this y value when this x value, which here is t, is 0. Okay, wait, what are the answers? T is temperature. So when the temperature is 0, and then I start scanning down, it's like, well, the only one it could be, because I'm thinking in terms of ordered pairs, I put in a 0, I get out a 331.4. That's what A says. It's like, well, how did you, what? I mean, you can tell if you're looking. Why would that be an answer choice? Well, because it's the slope right there. There's going to be some people who just don't understand what they're doing here. These are slope answer choices, but if you go in understanding, they will ask you questions with y equals mx plus b. You have to understand that b is the value of y when x is 0, but it won't be y's and x's necessarily. But that is the very same look of that very linear equation. Number 9, what's the question? What's the value of x times y? Man, keep it simple, y'all. Think simple. If x times y is 1, wouldn't it make sense that x was 1 and y was 1 because you're multiplying them together? What if x and y was 2? It could be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. What if x times y was 3? It could be 1 and 3 or 3 and 1. I recognize it could be other things. It could be the square root of 3 and the square root of 3, but that's not how these usually go. They usually go simply. What if it was 9? 1 and 9, 9 and 1, 3 and 3. Now, with those ordered pairs in mind, this is an ordered pairs question. It's a work backwards question. If I take a 1 and a 1 and I put it in, if I put a 1 in for x, does a 1 come out for y? Yes. Does that mean that's the answer? No, because we're looking for a solution to the system. It's got to solve both of them. If I put a 1 in for this x, I get 2 times 4, which is 8. Does that give me a 1 for y? 2 times 1, 2 plus 6 is 8 equals 8. Boom, that's bingo. Am I surprised when I land on the correct answer? No, I'm not, because one of them had to be it. And it's like, does that make me a little bit anxious and like I want to test these other ones? Yeah, kind of. And if I have to scratch that itch, I will. If I put a 1 in here, does a 2 come out? Nope. If I put a 2 in, does a 1 come out? Nope, nope, nope. You can do that if you need to, but you don't actually need to. Here's another pick numbers question. There's the word equivalent. I see the variables in the question that are also in the answer choices. This one's a little bit more convoluted than the last one, but honestly here I would pick 1 for both of those. If A is 1 and B is 1, can you see that Z has to be 2 if you plug that in? Can you see that Y also has to be 1 if you plug that in? 1 times 1 is 1. Which of the following is equivalent to 4Z, that's 4 times 2, plus 8Y, which is 8 times 1? Well, that's 8, and 8 makes 16. If I put in a 1 for A and B into these answer choices, which one gives me 16? Well, 4 squared is 16. That would be 3 squared, 4 squared is 16. That's how this goes, y'all. This test is predictable. You do not have to be afraid of it. This is a very doable test, but you have to know what's coming. You have to know how you're going to feel about what's coming, not overreact to your emotions and quit and give up. Know the look of what's coming, know how that makes you feel, and know what you're going to do about it. You can do it. You got this thing.